just to think. Like sometimes all we need is just to use this brain in our head and just think, ask ourselves,
Just
why?
just a little.
Why am I doing this? Just a little. Like the world would be a much, much better place.
Have you found the differences between, like, do you socialize more in Canada versus America? Like, have you seen the
Mhm.
cultural differences between each?
So depends. I mean,
You're just funny. The way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here, though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
So the reason I mean I started this personally was just because I wanted to interview experts in health, wellness, social media, and then eventually it kind of evolved into
Mhm.
like just getting to know people, having them get a
Yeah.
platform to kind of share what they're good at, and just kind of shoot the
Mhm.
shit a little bit. So I don't really have like a structure or format. I don't follow a script. I don't
Yeah.
prepare questions. I don't do any of that shit. So really, I just wanted to kind of get to know you a little bit and give you a platform to, share some knowledge and tell your story and all that
Yeah.
jazz. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for inviting me and for having me.
For sure.
As I said before, I really enjoyed your podcast before.
Oh, thanks.
On my way every day on the drive. Um, so I'm Shayan, um, born and raised in Iran. Um, I graduated in 2017 as a dentist. Um,
Congrats.
pra- Thanks. Practiced there for 4 years during COVID, even
Wow.
even there was lockdown and everything. Um, but things happened. My family, my mom, moved to states, Arizona. I just followed him, um, and I aged out of the immigration policy. It's like different laws, like when you're above 21, I think you can
Oh,
immigrate
really?
with your family or things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I just didn't want to stay in Iran based on the current, political climate and everything. Um, so I was like, I'll just go to Canada. That's my best option to be close to family and
Yeah.
to start a new life for myself. Um, so I applied for my residency, and it was pretty fast and forward with Canada. I just got it in 6 months,
Nice.
and I moved to Vancouver. Um, so that's pretty much it till then, and then
Nice.
that's when my life in North America started in 2021, July.
So are you still in Canada now?
No.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
currently, right now, I
Yeah.
am in Canada. I'm in
Okay.
Windsor, Ontario.
Okay.
But, but I am a student at the University of Michigan. So I
Oh, nice.
cross the border every day to school and come back to Canada.
That's so wild. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have to show like
Yeah.
certain do you have to show like certain papers or your passport or anything, or do they just there's no.
I I I should always have my password with me.
Yeah.
Um, my documents with me, and it's like every day, even if I forget to bring my MacBook or everything, I don't care. But there are two things I check always every day: my passport and my Canadian resident card to be able to come back.
That's wicked. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard, I mean, Canada is a lot more lenient rather than us in
Mhm.
America, which is so funny because, we share borders. And Canadians like, hey,
Yeah.
just come on over, eh? Like they don't care. They want some company. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but how are
Yeah.
you
So.
liking, how are you
Mhm.
liking, so you're a dentist currently? Are you practicing?
So that's the thing. In Vancouver, I just, there's a process when you come here as a medical practitioner. You
Hmm.
cannot just start practicing. Even if I did my studies in King's College London,
Yeah.
still it was not valid here.
Wow.
uh, yes, it's North America or nowhere. It's like Canada, States. That's it.
Yeah.
Um, so we can just jump into practicing. So what happened was that we have to do these 2-year programs. They call it advanced standing or international dentist programs. And then we will be able to get licensed again and start practicing here.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, but in order to get into this program, that's a lot of work. Like, we need to pass lots of exams, like a dental board exam, which graduates of dental school here take that exam after they graduate. But we have to take it before doing those programs.
Is that just for
Because
Canadians, or is it like that in America as well?
so that's in America.
Okay.
And well, Canada has a much more complicated system. And that's why I chose to go through the US system because it was way more practical.
Mm.
Way more practical. Um, in Canada, like a couple of my friends are stuck in the process for like 4 or 5 years now, and still it's not. And I'm like, okay, guys, this is not gonna work.
Whoa.
How
Yeah.
about you guys just switch your path to states? Because even if we do it in states, it's valid in Canada as well.
It's so weird.
Uh,
It's crazy how
so
governments have like quote unquote specific like requirements for all these different things, whether it's medical or our amendments, our rights. It's so different in Canada
yeah,
than it is in America. But like if you were
hmm
American crossing into Canada, it's all good. If you're a Canadian crossing America,
it's all good.
it's all good. Like no big deal. Like no one cares.
Exactly.
It's only when we get like the government involved in things, it's where it gets kind of squirrely. It's just so funny because we're all different naturally, but we're all just humans. We're all just people trying to figure this thing out. And what's fascinating to me when I talk to
Exactly.
someone like yourself, and I've had multiple people on my show that are either from Europe or you know uh, Italy or Australia,
hmm
UK, like all these different countries. I've had the pleasure of talking with people, and every single person has a different story of whether it's healthcare or their job or their residency, and or like food. Italy is a great example. I have my buddy Amadeo on that
Yeah.
is from Italy, and they just passed, or I think they're getting close to it, where they're going to ban all artificial ingredients in food. So, like if
hmm
you're, Nabisco, right? You can't sell your food in Italy because it's all artificial, like it's banned. So they're working on banning
Wow.
all synthetic ingredients in Italy, which is amazing. They'll be the first country ever to do it. But it's so funny because then that same food that they ban because it's unhealthy, according to their law, you could sell everywhere else. So it's the same. We're the same humans consuming that food, or we're the same humans trying to be dentists. Like we're the same. But just because of your zip code,
Hey,
things are
oh
different.
my God, don't let's not this out. Like,
Crazy.
I have been judged based on my place of birth so many times, like, and I have
Oh,
lost positions because of my place of birth.
coming from
Um,
Iran, and people are always busting your balls,
yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh my God, trust me, like it's not. That's why I'm trying to like I'm going through this like I mean, although I love Iran, like I love the culture, I love the people, right?
Sure.
It's my home. But it's just like the governments and the politics makes it so complicated and presents Iran in like such a horrible way.
Right.
Um Yeah, like, yeah, I mean, I am doing like I'm just driving every day from Windsor to Michigan instead of being on campus just to maintain my physical presence in Canada so I can become a Canadian citizen and get my Canadian passport and be over with it.
Unbelievable. And
Um,
like
yeah.
another funky thing where we're we're always talking about, especially in America, we're always talking about there's these political groups. We don't have to talk about politics. I just think it's fascinating, this conversation, because it's always politics or religion.
Mhm.
It's those two
Mhm.
things. And while I think there's some great benefits to religion and there's also great benefits to politics, there's only been wars started because of those two things. If you boil it down,
Mhm.
technically, right? Like the World War II, World War One. Like if you break down the big wars, it's either politics, right? Different ideologies or views of, political beliefs or religious beliefs.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
while they're both great and serve benefits to each individual country in their own right, I don't know. I think there's more cons now. Like I think we're smart enough to understand that, history has taught us that there's just more cons from politics and religion. And when you really
Hmm.
boil it down and when you think about how it's been saturated, I love looking at religion and politics like the telephone game. You ever play the telephone
Yeah.
game as a kid or heard about it? Where it's like it's a circle of kids, and one person says, "The cheese smells good." They whisper it, "The cheese smells good." And then they do it to every kid. And by the time it gets to like the 20th kid in the circle, it's like the mouse smells like an asshole. It's like it's this totally
I know. I
different.
know.
And that to me is kind of like how politics and religion has been. I think when we first in America, and I can only speak for America because I know a little about the history. In 1776, when we apparently became independent, which I don't know if it would have been better maybe as us as cavemen and we just kept like that. But in 1786, so we wrote out these quote unquote like good things that we need to practice and we need to instill. And
Hmm.
you look at like 2023, we're still following those things. They were good in 1776, but it's like it's 2023. Things have changed. It's gotten watered down to where this telephone game has we have saturated this country with so many different ideologies and different beliefs. And now it's like this smorgasbord of, different people feeling different things. And it's affecting the way we police this government and this country.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, the human culture, how we're so stuck in a team, like a tribe, and you can't really get
Hmm.
us out of it. America in particular, I think, where we're like so tribal to where we're not really objective with things. And I think it all started with, 1776, and we're free and protect our rights and freedom to bear arms and freedom of speech and all that's great, but we're able to bend the rules a little bit when it comes to like freedom of speech. Like if you're familiar with
Hmm.
this, you can't yell fire in a crowded area. Like that's illegal. You can't
Okay.
do it. But
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
you can't do it. You'll literally be I don't think there's like it's like you go to jail for like, a year. But I think you get removed from the premises if you yell fire and it's a false alarm. Or same thing like if you're in a plane, you can't stand up in a plane and just yell down, down. You can't do that. They'll remove you from the plane or they'll
Yeah.
land the plane, right? But you're speaking.
I
It's
mean,
free. It's freedom
it's
of
not a
speech.
pleasant thing to say. I know.
Sure.
It will make everyone freak out.
Right. But I mean, it's freedom of speech. You're infringing on my freedom of
Hmm.
speech. This is what we've come to, where we've made exceptions for that, which I agree with. But it's funny that if you tell somebody, no, 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 you can't bear arms. You can't have this certain gun. We're like, no, no, no. Back in 1776, they said we're allowed to bear arms. You can't bend that rule. It's like, things changed. Like we used to have like mullets and we used to have one gun, or excuse me, one bullet
Yeah.
that we would pat. And now guns are a little bit different than back in 1776. So maybe we changed the law a little
Hmm.
bit, but we can't bend on that just like we can't bend on everything else. It's very weird, man. Like, because we're making all these things up. Like all the things that you're saying, we all made it up. Like in America, we made that up. This rule that you can't,
It's
it's all made up.
it's funny. Like I was just thinking, like, why never we thought like of all the humans on Earth like
Hmm.
as the same. Like we're one country called Earth.
Right.
Like we make so many rules and things and everything to make our own lives complicated.
That's right.
Um, yeah,
And you
but
think it's
okay.
because
I
maybe we're
mean,
bored? Maybe we're bored.
I don't know. Like, that's actually a good question. Why did these happen? Maybe we're bored. And it is good actually. I think in every profession we remind ourselves like just be fair. That's what I always tell myself when I see patients now.
Mhm.
Because I see patients from different colors, different backgrounds, different people, but you should be able to treat them fairly as equal, right?
Yeah.
I I
They're
think it's a good
patients.
practice to just, yeah, they're
Yeah.
patients, they're
Yeah.
humans. Like, so who cares like what's their skin color or what is their background, religion, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's good to just practice your mind just to not be biased towards your patients. Like, I don't know, like even a patient comes to you that's like, um I don't know, more good looking or more organized. Like,
Right.
and then what will be my approach towards that person as a dentist? Like, probably will I talk more to that patient? Will I try to make a better connection?
Sure.
With another patient that's just like comes and just, you don't feel connected to,
Right.
but is it fair for you to just not give the same quality of service to the same person?
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. And
so I think it's a
easier,
challenge.
yeah, easier said than done, of course. But,
Yes.
yeah, but then you also have to think like, so who's putting all this stuff in our head of um diversity and and all the negative things that we think about other people and other cultures and other
Yeah. Hmm.
religions and other like who's putting that in our head? Because when you think about
Yeah.
that, it's really funny, or not funny, but when you think of it like that, it's really easy to be on team human. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
so like you and me having this conversation, if we were to grab 10 other people, have this conversation, shoot the shit, there's probably going to be one person that doesn't agree with us. But why is that though? Because we're the same. Well, it's because in the course of a year or 10 years or our whole lives, we were fed a certain ingredient that made us go in a different
Hmm.
direction. It's influence. That's all it
Hmm.
is. It's just influence. So either you're influenced by your parents or the media, or you're influenced by something to
Exactly.
point a different direction. It's like,
Hmm.
it's like, I don't know if you're big into like movies, but a while ago I stopped watching horror movies
Okay.
as an experiment to myself, because as I was getting older, I don't know what it was. Maybe I wasn't getting a lot of sleep, combined with staying up late and watching a lot of horror movies before I go to bed. But I was starting to have these very vivid dreams, not really nightmares where it was like I woke up scared of the dark, but I would have like recurring nightmares of either what I saw or something like it, and I couldn't get any sleep. Then I cut out horror movies and I stopped having nightmares. I haven't had a nightmare since I stopped.
Interesting.
Not one nightmare. Um, I've had like
Interesting.
nightmares of like waking up like I'm falling and like things like that. But like in terms of like scary nightmares, like I don't know. I think everyone can have um this vision. Maybe you did have this dream or nightmare or something at some point in your life. But you ever have that one where you wake up and you can't move?
Oh God, that's the worst.
The
Like, you want
worst.
to
But
get out of her and you feel you have no control over anything. Yeah.
yes. Ever since I stopped watching horror movies, hasn't had that has not happened once. And I don't know if there's any,
Okay. That's good.
I don't know if there's any relation to that. But that one particular nightmare stands out because I think everyone has had that for some reason. And I think it's because like we are just scared and there's something in the back of our head that keeps us like that. So I found that if I eliminate scary things when I'm awake, I don't have these nightmares.
Then it will, yeah, influence your sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we could relate that with a lot of other things to where if your social media is all bad and all negative stuff,
Hmm.
most likely you're going to think the
I
world is
think I
bad,
think there
right?
was there was a nice thing I read somewhere, or someone told me that like, your life or your character will
Hmm.
be a sum of the five people that you hang out most with, or you
Ooh,
know
that's fascinating. Yeah,
that's very nice, right? So
I could
surround
see that.
yourself with people that have the same thinking as you, or or people that's gonna help you develop yourself or make yourself a better person.
Mm,
So, and I remind myself of that all the time. Like, you have to be very selective of who you hang out with, who you
right.
spend your time with, because subconsciously you are being influenced. Like, they are
Totally.
having an influence on you, on your character, on your belief, your mindset, everything. So
Totally.
yeah, yeah, that's
Totally.
simply true.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like if you're familiar with like Mormons, it's a fascinating religious ideology, I guess you would call it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with it, but if you're familiar with it, and I only say this because I saw a TV show yesterday, and there was Mormons in it,
Hmm.
and it kind of talked about it, so it reminded me. But imagine like putting a Mormon inside a Walmart,
Okay.
and you do it every day. Eventually, they're going to be like, I kind of fucking want this TV. Like,
Yeah,
so they're going to
yeah,
forget
yeah.
about their entire belief system because you're pushing them in that direction. And in America, we're so good at it because we know if we push these little humans in different directions, they're going to buy more things. And then America's going to
Hmm.
continue to profit, make money. So I don't think there's
Yeah.
any, there's no good example of like pushing someone in a certain direction. But I also don't think there's anything good if you just keep a person inside a wooden cabin and cut them off from civilization too. I
Oh
think that's
yeah. Oh
that's
no,
bad
no,
as
no.
well.
Yeah.
So it's like,
In I think
you
I
know,
think everyone should. I mean, and we are all taking influence every day from everything, even in
right.
Instagram, right? You open it.
Mm,
I don't know. Last night you were talking about, I don't know, buying a TV or something, and then you wake up, open your Instagram, and it's like all ads about TV.
man.
But you should be smart in choosing.
Yeah.
Like, that's where being smart comes in selection.
Yeah.
But in the end, we are all influenced. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
perfect. No one's perfect. We are all influenced by different stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what
Yeah.
we have to come to realize to where we're all different, but we're all the same. And
Hmm.
there and we one thing I learned, especially now that I have a daughter, one thing I learned is because we talked about this earlier, where we did make up these.
Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
I
she's
never
oof.
get to congratulate you in person.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, she's almost 6 weeks. It's crazy. Time's flying by so
Oh
quick.
wow. Wow.
Um, and there's I forget who it is. I want to say either it's Joe Rogan or maybe some other comedian, but I heard them talk about this before. And when you have a child, it's even more amazing. When you think about we were all that. Like we were all like you it's different when you know somebody or when you see it on TV. But when I see my wife, 102 pounds for 8 years, and then she progressively gets bigger in the best way possible, and her belly grows, and then you see her belly move because this thing that you made is kicking it, and then I
Hmm.
watch it come out of her, and then it's a baby girl, and then you see her moving and crying and trying to breathe and spitting up this gunk for the first time she's breathing oxygen. And then she calms down after a couple weeks. And then now she's smiling and laughing at you. And you look at that and you go, she's going to be like my size one day. And then you
Yeah.
start thinking to yourself, wait, hold on. I was her size before. And then you're like, wait a minute.
Hmm.
I was in my mom's belly. I was kicking. And then wait, I didn't exist. In fact, I
Yeah.
didn't exist more than I have existed. Like the earth has
That's
been around
crazy.
for millions of years. I've
Yeah.
existed more than I've lived. Or excuse me, I haven't existed
No. Yeah, you
more than
haven't
I
existed either
lived.
way. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's so I started thinking about this just in the last couple of weeks, and it's like mind blowing when you start thinking, in that perspective. But then you look around and you realize that other people were also babies. Other people were also,
Yeah.
haven't existed. So we've made all this up, is my point, is we all
Yeah.
don't know what to do. Like, you're a dentist. You're learning
Hmm.
things. But even dentists
Yeah.
don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're learning as they go.
Hmm.
Like, some of the first doctors ever were prescribing cigarettes to patients. Obviously, we've learned. But before, they were
Hmm.
like, for sure, these cigarettes are going to help with anxiety and like, you got to smoke these. Doctors are on, like, ads and commercials talking about how cigarettes are good for you and you should smoke them. So it's like we're all learning. We're all making shit up as we go.
Hmm.
So the
Oh,
fact
that is very true.
yeah. So the fact that you and I could look at each other and say for sure, no, this is right. No, you need to do this, Tony. It's crazy. So
No,
I
no, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think when you have a kid in particular, it really opens up your perspective a little bit, because I've been pretty objective most of my life, but lately I just look around and I'm like, we don't know anything. It's
Oh no, yeah, I totally feel you. I mean, in medical field, they encourage us to be as objective
oh,
as
that's great.
possible, especially when it comes to our, I don't know, notes. Like,
Hmm.
skip your emotions, your own leaves, just be objective. Like when you're putting notes about your patient or anything. But in the end, um, I think it like you will be influenced in the end. Like maybe you're objective in your notes or whatever, but in practice you are a bit subjective.
Yeah.
Um, and that's crazy because we I was having this discussion with a couple of my classmates who are also dentists from their countries, and like we're in the same program here, getting licensed soon. So we are being graded by different faculties, and
Oh, really?
like on in clinical scenarios or anything. You can't believe how different two faculties' opinions on the same case can be. Like, they're graduates of the same school, practicing in the same country, then on a same clinical case, there's so many different opinions. Although they try to make science objective, medical field objective,
Right.
but different treatment plans, different scenarios, same like by different people. So yeah,
Wow.
um, in the end, it's really
Yeah.
is the brain and how you interpret. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's also scary too, right? Like, as not necessarily um, so much in your profession, I don't think anyway, but like, if I was to have a heart attack, let's say, um,
Hmm.
and there was one doctor from one country that believes one thing, and then another doctor from another country, but you could have two vastly different results based
Oh,
off,
yes.
right? Like, based off
Even
just
from
what
the
they
same
think.
country, Tony. Even from the same country. Like
Dude,
same institution. Two different doctors for your heart, they can totally take a different approach.
it's crazy. And it's scary
So
because, like,
the more you
if
go into it, it's
yeah.
worse.
Yeah, because, like, imagine, because you can't, like, if something was to happen to you, especially nowadays, oh my god, especially now, you can't, if you have, like, I had a big lung surgery about a year and a half
Yeah,
ago, and I had a tumor that was found in my lung. Thank goodness it was benign, but it was just a long procedure. And I'm thinking
yeah.
about this because imagine if I went into it and I'm like, hey, listen, my doctor needs to have XYZ. needs to he needs to look like this, needs to act like this, needs to talk like this, needs to be from this school. They'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
What are you doing? But
Yeah.
that's kind of like, you know, true though, depending on what it is, like, depending on where they went to school and depending on what they look like. And in fact, I even read this article that says if you actually have a female surgeon, you're more likely to have zero cases in um, accidents or wrong procedures done or issues with the procedure than if you were to have a male. So statistically, males make more mistakes in surgery.
Mhm.
Now, that could be
Mhm.
because historically there's more male surgeons, because for quite some time we were dickheads to women.
Yeah.
So that could be it too. But it's just funny to think that technically you'd be better off, statistically, you'd be better off having a female surgeon than a male surgeon.
Yeah.
Statistically, you'll have
Yeah.
less issue. So that's like, fuck.
I kind of like have came to this conclusion as well. The women, like, their attention to details, even in medical practice, is way higher, like, than guys. I mean, there are exceptions, of course, but in general, what I see, women pay more attention to detail.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's not like I don't want to like talk bad about my profession. Like I know that different practitioners can take different approaches.
Of course.
Some of the basics are the same,
Mm.
and I think that those basics are fundamental to the science and medical approaches.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like if you come and have a high blood pressure, no one's gonna tell you, "Oh, you're good."
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, no one's
Yeah.
gonna say, "Oh, you're healthy, go back home. You're good."
Yeah. Exactly. That's
That
true.
everyone agrees on that you need to do something about it. But, I might suggest, hey, like based on what I experienced or what I read, like it's good for you to take, I don't know, drug A to,
Yeah.
have it under control. But I don't know, Dr. B would, suggest,
Tell you
no,
otherwise.
I think if you take drugs, the another drug, it will act better. It's all because there is not sometimes accurate data
Mm.
available yet. Like
Mhm.
different things that happen in the science, and they're like, oh, we found new evidence that the thing that we were doing in the past years is wrong. So now we're changing our approach.
Right.
Um,
Because there's been
but
studies
it
and
really
medical
matters.
research behind it. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I think the new approach, and that's why the schools are really emphasizing on it, is to be objective
Mm.
as you can, and also to rely on evidence on making your decisions rather than relying on your own beliefs or experience or things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's anything this world has taught us up to this point in 2023, the fact that aliens are now real, I think it's safe to say we don't know a whole lot. Like, so
Yeah.
for us to assume that we know what the fuck is going on with anything, you'd be crazy. You'd be a crazy person to think that, because we don't know
Yeah.
anything about anything. Like, that's why I'm not I don't want to say I'm an atheist. I would say I'm agnostic than anything. I just, which, do you know the difference? Agnostic.
To some level.
So I'll kind of share this because I've talked about it before and maybe people don't know. So agnostic is more of, in a nutshell, an atheist is saying, no, there's no God.
Yeah, there's no God. Yeah.
Agnostic is saying, I don't know.
Maybe there is.
Maybe there is. Yeah. And I don't know which one it
Yeah.
is. That's what that's saying,
Mhm.
pretty much. But I bring that up because I'm just open to it. I'm open-minded to it. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm not saying there is. But that leads me which I was not like this a decade ago. But ever since I started this podcast, it's made me more objective, I think, talking with a lot of people from different backgrounds and heritages and religions. Where I'm like, if I'm just throwing this out there, Catholic, Christian, etc., whatever you believe or whatever my wife believes is irrelevant, because that's not true. What I believe is true. That is like religion. And that's very interesting to me, how people could be so confident in that, just based off what, like we've talked about, they've been influenced by, because things are always changing. Like, I think we'd all be in a better place, maybe, I don't know, is if we all believe the same things that we believe now, but we all need to have maybe in our vocabulary more. So like, if
Absolutely.
right? So if I'm Christian and we're having a conversation about religion, and I'm like, God this, God that, Christian, but maybe you could be right.
Yeah.
That's how the conversation needs to end, is like, here's my belief, but maybe, you might be right. And it should be honest. And
Yeah.
because I feel like it opens up more of a conversation, but it's also like, you don't have to be an idiot or an historian to know that things have changed over the years and we've learned new information. So I think we all need to be a little open-minded. That's why I bring up the aliens, because it's funny that we all made fun of like Scientologists before. But like, what if that's the correct religion? Like, what if they believe in a, lizard man or whatever the Scientologists believe in? Like, what if that's true? What if these Christians are all idiots? Like.
Yeah. I was it just like the question popped up into my mind to say, what if that's the correct religion? And I was like gonna ask, like, can you define correct? Like, what is a correct religion?
It's so funny. Yeah, but I say this because I've had conversations with people that are so set on Christianity or Catholicism, or even like politics. That's the worst one. I've lost friends over these last couple elections here in America, to where they're so, no matter what side you're on, they're so dedicated to one side that you can't even change their mind, like not even for a little bit. Because me, I fall in the same thing with religion. I'm more independent when it comes to politics. Like, if I could vote independent every year and there was a chance they would get elected, which I do, but everybody who runs for independent never shows up on the ballot, really. But I think if we were all more independent when on a political side, it'd be even more interesting. Because I don't know if you have friends that are either Trump supporters or Biden supporters, but it's so funny because I talk shit about both sides. And so when like Trump was president, I'm like, well, his policy here was good, right? Like, you're going to get more taxes back. Like, he had a really good tax plan, but he's also an idiot. And, he believed in, faith and church, and he doesn't drink, and he's got some great qualities, and he's a businessman, and, he's just kind of crazy, sure, but he's also very good at conversations with political leaders, and we had no issues with, China or Russia before, but now we do.
Yeah.
So it's like, whether you hate him or not, that's fine, but he was good at certain things. He was shitty at a lot of things. And then when I talk to Republicans and they're like, bro, like, what are you doing? You can't say that. Like, what do you mean? No, it's like, it's either Trump or nobody. I was like, what? That's crazy to think. Like, hold on. And then I talk about Obama, and I'm like, Obama was a great speaker, like the best. And they're like, all Trump supporters are like, no, he wasn't. I'm like, wait, what? Like, are you saying that because you're a Republican? I was like, no, he was. He was a great speaker. Wasn't he? And the Republicans are like, no, he was the worst. And I go, okay, now you're just like part of this tribe. Now you're so hardcore Republican that you won't admit that Obama was a badass. Like, in fact, he was
they're being not realistic and just ignoring.
Because it's their team, and the greatest example, I don't know if you're into sports, but it's football season. So I have a lot of friends. Go blue. Michigan Blue. So yeah, I have a lot of friends that I don't talk to for 16 weeks because like if because I'm a Dolphins fan, and like, let's say if they're a Jets fan, I don't talk to them because we're rivals. But that's like, that's joking, that's kidding, whatever. But we really don't talk to each other because it's always like, talking shit in a fun way, but it's, we don't do it. Same thing with politics. If you're like on that side of the fence, you can't talk to people. And it's so silly because if everyone just understood that governments are just out to help themselves and they don't give a shit about us, I think we'd all be in a better place. We got to do what we got to do to work with them and, pay our taxes and all that shit. But it's just so funny how we literally put those groups, those tribes above like you and me. some people.
Mhm.
You know, like when you're having
Yeah,
a
it's
conversation with somebody, it's crazy.
I think if everyone, Tony asked that question, like, from themselves, like, "Why am I doing this?"
Yeah,
Like, just to think. Like, sometimes all we need is just to use this brain in our head and just think, ask ourselves,
just
"Why?
just a little.
Why am I doing this?" Just a little. Like, the world would be a much, much better place.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, you know, we can't solve it all, I guess. We'll try. One podcast episode at a
Oh,
time.
no. I know.
But
No, I
have you
feel you.
have you found the differences between like do you socialize more in Canada versus America? Like have you seen the
Mhm.
cultural differences between each?
Um, so depends. I mean, I think my opinion is biased for
Mm,
sure because I have only lived in Michigan. Well, I visited family like a lot in Arizona, but I have not lived in Florida or California or
mm,
Texas or,
right.
state, big country, Canada as well. So, but I mean, based on my little experience, and I can be wrong, but what I experienced is that cultural experience is just like Canadians are more welcoming.
Mm,
Um, More welcoming. Yeah, I could blend in the Canadian community, faster, easier,
mm,
rather than blending into the American community in Michigan. And that's also, again, biased because I if someone asks me define American community,
mm.
I'm like, okay, what can I I can't answer to
Yeah,
that. Because my community is right now dental school.
right.
Like, out of the 24 hours of the day, I'm in dental school for 12 hours.
Mm,
Um, so that also is not a good, you know, representing
right.
population of the whole Michigan
Sure.
community again.
Sure.
So
That makes
time
sense.
time makes sense. But if I just want to say, like, I feel it was more easier to blend into Canada. There, but there are aspects, like there are pros and cons to
Mm,
both countries. No country is perfect,
of course.
and they are very good in their own ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody I think each country has done good things and bad, but also um, there's every single government and country has had their peak, their rise and their fall. Like I even think there's this trend going around about the Roman Empire. Have you seen this trend?
No.
No? We're so weird in America with trends. But these folks are just making a bunch of videos about the Roman Empire, and for some reason it just keeps popping up. Because the Roman Empire at one point was like, you know, it, and then
It's
it fell. It fell hard.
yeah.
So it's like the trend is like, when is America gonna fall? That type of thing. Which is kind of a weird conversation to have, but it's true because it's like all the things we're talking about. It's the community that you're in, you might thrive in or you might be great in, but you could take that same group of people and put them in a different country and it will be very different. Um,
Very different. Yeah.
which is fucking bonkers. It's weird to think about. Just again, like we go back full circle. It's the zip code. It's the zip code you're in.
Yeah.
What? So
Mhm.
weird. So weird.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
That's very true.
a lot of that is like coming from Iran, but a lot of that is just, you know, it's the dice, man. It's like whatever card you're dealt. Like you didn't
Mhm.
choose it. Would your would
Oh,
your
no.
life would your life
Yeah.
be better or worse if you were born in New York City? I don't know, but it's
Mhm.
kind of weird to think about that you have to think to yourself that could it be different? Would it be better? Would it be worse? Like would it be easier? Would it be harder? It's just
Um,
one of those things to where when are we going to get to the point if at all where that doesn't matter? And it's even more hypocritical coming from an American because if you watch TV or if you watch TV commercials or if you watch companies spew out this diversity bullshit that they always
Mm.
put out, it's so funny because we are the most diverse and melting pot country in the world, but we are so divided with each other. Like,
Mhm.
it's crazy how divided we are because I've been to other places and not out of the country, but I have friends that, for instance, like over in Italy, where they talk about you could literally walk the streets and not know anybody. Or I'm sure it's like this in Canada too. And everyone's friendly.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit, who you have sex with or what you look like or your
Mhm.
fucking religious or political belief. No one cares. But if you were to like walk in California with a Trump hat, bro, you know how many milkshakes you would get thrown at your face? Like,
Oh God.
it's so weird. But in America, we're supposed to
Mhm.
be like this land of the free and home of the brave and all this
Yeah.
bullshit. But it is
Mhm.
just a crazy persona that we put together and sold the rest of the world. And it worked for a while before
Yeah.
social media. But now I think people are starting to, see through the bullshit and be like, these Americans are a bunch of
I
frauds.
well, nah, I wouldn't say like that,
I know, I'm just
because,
busting balls, but yeah.
uh, like, I agree with you to some point, like, I feel here, in US, people have more strong opinions
Mhm,
towards different things, while I think, it's good to be more balanced, and, again, going back to that question that maybe I'm wrong.
mhm,
Maybe this person's right.
yeah,
This is something I don't see often here. It's like the opinions are pretty strong.
yeah,
But I like the fact what I really like actually about in States is that you have the opportunity if you believe in something
mm,
to make it happen.
absolutely, yeah,
I think that's what makes States different from Canada and from the
mhm,
rest of the world. That if you are diligent, if you put work into it, you can this is the country to make your dream happen,
yeah,
and that's what I really appreciate about States.
yeah, the American dream is definitely, for sure, it's the best place to be, yeah, um,
Yeah,
and I was talking, I think it was last episode with, yeah, he's from Germany, this guy Mario. I think it's episode, like, 211 or something,
yeah,
people.
I listened
Oh,
to that, I
yeah.
listened to
Such
that.
a funny
Yeah,
motherfucker. But we were talking a little bit about this to where, yeah, the American dream is definitely real. It's a thing, but it's also like one of those other things that is kind of fabricated. In my opinion, I can't really speak for it because again, I'm just a privileged white guy that was born in America, so it's easy for me to talk like this. But it's fascinating that like my grandfather who came from Italy and that whole his whole heritage and a lot of other people that were immigrants, they built this country to what it is. um
mhm,
and we're very lucky that immigrants came over and made America what it is because it is the best
mhm,
place for opportunity. um and I think when the American dream thing started, it started back in the 50s or the 20s or whenever it was when everyone's walking around and, they're selling fruit outside, right? Just to make a quick
mhm,
cent. And cars weren't
yeah,
invented and nothing. There was no materialistic things for people to worry about. They were just trying to get by and give their children a better life than what they had over the pond. Now,
yeah,
I don't know if it's like that. And I keep talking about this, and I know there's 1,000 countries that have it way worse. I'm not saying that this isn't the case where America is obviously clearly the better option. I just mean like as far as when people come over, I think we're in a very rare situation to where if you have the financial ability to have a phone,
yeah,
and an education, and you're lucky enough to have two parents in the household that are great people,
mhm,
I think you could be very happy and I think you can have an incredible life. It's just so
mhm,
hard to not want the American dream because now the American dream is kind of like, I want to make a lot of money so I can have a lot of shit. Like if you
Yeah.
really boil it down, that's kind of what it is, because it's all
Mhm.
greed. It's all you want more things. And I just can't wait to the point, because again, I have my daughter now. I don't want to go to a different country now because I don't know if it
Yeah.
would be fair to her. So I'm not blindsided to the fact that America is clearly better for opportunity. But I'm also thinking to myself, like, I don't know. I don't know if the food is better here. I don't know if the views are better.
No.
I
The
don't know
food
if,
is definitely
you
not
know what I
better.
mean? Like, so it's like, I don't know if the
Yeah.
people are better. I don't know if the air is better. I don't know if the quality of life, I don't know if she should have a phone. I don't know if she should, but also too, like having a phone is going to make you money. But it's also like, is that what's
Mhm.
important? You know, like
No. Yeah.
what really is the reason America is the American dream, right? Like that's what I am intrigued by, you know?
I was fascinated, by I experienced Iran, I experienced Canada, and I experienced here now. Um, I also like, traveling a lot to Europe, meeting my dentist friends in
Mhm.
Europe. So I see different systems. What I appreciate about the US system is that it's practical.
Mm,
It is flexible to some point, in my field
yeah,
at least, what I experienced.
sure.
Um, Canada was more like black or white. There was no
Mhm.
gray.
There's no wiggle room to
You're
play
either
around with
black or
things.
yeah, yeah, there's no playing around.
Mm,
Here, it's like they play around it because
mhm.
not everything will be categorized as black or white.
Sure,
There's a gray zone. You need
of
to
course.
work on that. Here, it's practical.
Yeah,
But in the end, yeah, the food there in Canada is way better,
sure.
healthier. But
Yeah,
so in the end, it comes to the person and what you want from your life.
that's right.
What do I want from my life? What does Tony want from his life?
Yeah,
Um, do I want to, make my dream? Depends. What's your dream again? Mine can be different from yours.
yeah,
Um, and it's not about the money. I think it's about being happy. If you're
sure.
happy in Canada, Canada
Yeah.
can be the best place to live. Canada can be your American dream.
Yeah, yeah. Or anywhere, right? Like, if you're
Yeah, anywhere.
yeah, like I was having this conversation with my wife, and we're like, maybe America is the place where we raise our daughter. Um, but maybe we retire in Europe, like
Yeah,
when she's able to kind of make the distinction between, hey, do you want to live here or there? Like here's the pros, here's the
yeah.
cons. Let's make a decision and let's move there and let's, quote unquote retire there. Because I've always thought about that too, where, I wouldn't be able to have a career like I do in like Italy,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they're like still living in 1800 over there. Like they don't, they're like content creator, podcaster. What the fuck is that? They don't know. But then you also think like there's this great Netflix documentary called oh damn, it's about the blue zones in Italy. If you're familiar with blue zones,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it talks about there's more people that live over the age of 100 in Italy and in that part of Europe
Mhm.
than anywhere else in the world, and they think it's because of the food. And this is the blue zone thing that they talk about, and that to me is the most fascinating because it's like, okay, but when you look at the statistics of Americans, we're the fattest. We are on the most drugs. We abuse the most drugs. Um, we are, yes, the richest, quote unquote, if you average,
Mhm.
each person out. But also, too, we have a government that's kind of running things, and there's a little bit of corruption, and just in every government, of course. But then you just kind of boil it down to each human individual, and per capita, we have more people. I think the average person, I'd love to look this up and I'll try to clip this, but I think the average person makes like 32 grand a year. Maybe it's 37
Mhm.
now. So the average person, but if you look at like the average person like Italy, they might be making 20, 30 grand. But if they can live to 100, if the average person lives longer, it's like, I don't know, like So what are we doing
What
here?
is more important?
Because what are we doing, right? Because you and I were working to be happy. We got to pay our
Yeah.
mortgage. We got to do this. We got to do that. But we're only going to do that. Everyone has the same path if you're lucky. You work until you can't anymore, and then you live off
Hmm.
hopefully retirement. Like, we're all going to live down that path. It's all going to happen. So,
That
like,
is true.
what are we doing? We're kind of working to get to a point where we don't have to work anymore, so we could live longer and not work. But it's like, hold on, wait. So it's weird to think about to me, because I just struggle with this back and forth, because I working for myself. I talk to a lot of friends that are just miserable with their job, and I go, well, why don't you just quit, do something else? Well, because
Yeah.
I'll make less money. I go, who cares? Well, then I won't be able to do
Yeah.
this or buy this. And I go, okay, but you're only talking about things you want to buy. So just stop buying those things.
Hmm.
Well, but the wife wants this and the house and the car. And I go, but dude, none of that's going to matter when you're 70. Like, what are we talking about?
That is true.
It's so weird.
That is true.
It's a weird.
You know, sometimes I get criticized on the fact that I travel a lot or spend a lot of money as a student I am right now. But I'm like,
Fuck it. Good for you.
no, like
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to go explore the world. I just turned 30 in May. I'm like,
You said 30?
but I just stepped into 30.
Oh, wow. Jesus. Congrats. I thought you were
Yeah.
younger than it, actually. Yeah. You look good for 30.
Yeah, I get that a lot,
Yeah.
even
Nice.
without the mustache. People think I'm like 22, but I just into 30. And I'm proud of myself because I spent a ton shit of money on traveling, but those experiences made me who I am. Like, made me
Yeah.
open-minded, made me experience different cultures. Um, maybe I only live once. Never know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
I get the chance to come back to life again and do over and over and over. But yeah,
Maybe.
but maybe it's the only time. I'm in my
Yeah.
20s, 30s. Like, why do I need to save my money to travel when I'm 70?
Yeah.
Do you get my point? Like, I want to go
For sure.
explore. What's the point of life? Why are we living?
No doubt, man. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
my biggest regret when I was in my 20s, and that's why me and the wife have talked about this numerous times. Where when our daughter's capable, probably like even when she turns 2, our first trip with her is going to be over in Italy, just because I have friends over there. But just to
Yeah.
go over there and spend 3-4 weeks with her, and everyone asks me, I go, "Well, your daughter's going to be 2; she's not going to remember." I go, "So."
So,
It won't be
yeah.
the last time she's there. It's not gonna be the last trip we go to. We're doing
Mhm.
it for me. Like,
Mhm.
imagine if
Mhm.
that, God forbid, imagine if we couldn't go on any trips, or we couldn't experience the world, and you go through your whole life not knowing what France looks like, or even Iran,
Yeah.
even Canada, even Australia. I mean, God, the world is so
Mhm.
big, man. We don't know shit about anything, like just what you see on TV. And then when you go to these places, and I know it's fascinating to me because, well, like we went to Grand Canyon just a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and when you see that, it's like, what is
Something to see.
yeah, it's like, what is Earth? What is space and time? Like, you look like a
Yeah.
crazy person when you stare out into this, looks like infinity amount of space in between you and the next cliff area of the Grand Canyon. And you look at it, you're like, it looks like an oil painting. That is not real. And you're like
Mhm.
touching it like a weird
Mhm.
person. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. And that's just the Grand Canyon. I say just the Grand Canyon, but there is thousands of destinations
A
that are just as
lot.
beautiful.
There's a
Oh,
lot to the world. Yeah,
so
there's a
much.
lot to the world.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there are places I have seen, like, and this is gonna be funny, where girls ask guys to marry them.
No.
Like, it
Where
works the other way. Seriously, like, girls go and ask for the guy's hand in marriage.
where's this at?
Like, that would be somewhere in India.
Really? I do hear India is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is, like, what I'm saying, different cultures and things, like,
Yeah.
it will blow your mind.
Yeah.
Um, And it sometimes makes me sad, like, to see people like the other day, I was talking to this girl and I was introducing myself and she asked me, "Where do you live?" And I was in Canada. And she told me like, "Oh, so you drive to school for 4 hours every day?" And I was like, "No, it's just 40 minutes." And then she was surprised. She was like, "Oh, Canada's just 40 minutes from here?"
Oh no.
And I was like, "How can you be like, I don't
So
know,
oblivious to that.
25
Yeah.
years living in Michigan and still know that Canada is just 40 minutes away,
Oh my God.
like just next to you." Like, this is not right. I feel sad sometimes like this. I'm like, people travel. Make your mind open, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's even
Yeah.
more funny when I was talking to this buddy of mine that we were just into this Russia, China, US debate thing we were getting into. And
Yeah.
he's like talking so much shit about Russia. And I was like, dude, Russia's like across the street. And he's like, no, it's not. I go, bro, if you step foot in Alaska and look
Yeah.
across the water,
Yeah.
there's an island
That's
there that's like, I don't know, like 20 miles away or something. And that's Russia. It's like
yeah.
we're not that different. It's just water. He's like, that's not true. I was like, look, pull out your phone, dude. Let's look it up. And I was like, how do you not know? Like, you think Russia is this far away, uninhabitable place, bro? It's across the street. Like, it's not that far away. And what's even more funny is he
Mhm.
lives in California, and I'm like, how do you not? How do you not know? You're closer to Russia than I am, bro.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just it's so weird, man. Just the and
Yeah.
this goes back to what we're talking about, kind of the theme of this podcast episode, which has been great. It's just the area that you live and the tribe that you're in, you're so oblivious to
Yeah.
everything else. Like
Mhm.
that poor girl in Michigan that you're talking about, she's probably like she's having drinks with her friends, and her biggest issue that day was like the hair dye was not working well for her or something crazy. It's like
Yeah.
there is
Yeah. I
more
know.
crazy shit and there is more things going on in the world. And once you start like opening up your mind and educating yourself on things that are going on, it makes all the other problems not seem that big in your life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I don't know. Like
No, that's something,
even having a kid, I mean, that'll definitely, that'll
oh,
definitely change
that will
things.
be a breakthrough, I think, for
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really congratulate you on being a dad, amazing one. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
you are.
Yes. Thank you.
I personally think it's a lot of responsibility, but in the end, it will make you a much, much better person
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
because
I
you're
didn't
thinking,
think,
of someone before yourself. You're
right.
prioritizing someone before yourself, and that's what
Yeah.
really makes a huge difference.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, it's like I didn't think like I love my wife to death. But when you do have a baby and he or she is born, the love and the thoughts that go through my head as a male, I can't speak for the female because I'm sure they're not as physically or logical when it comes to this emotion. They're probably more just emotional with it.
Mhm.
But now that I have a daughter, and again, I love my wife more than anything in the world. But when my daughter was born and I'm starting to like live with my daughter and see her react, if something was to happen, um, and I was in a dangerous situation, I would take my wife and I would use her as a baseball bat to beat someone else to save my daughter. Like
Mhm.
it's to the point where like my wife, as much as she is everything to me,
Yeah.
that baby is like that's more. You don't think that it would be more, but she's more important than anything. Like I would sacrifice my own life to make sure she lives. And I never thought, like I would never, this is horrible to say. I just never had that thought, even though I know it's true, that I would have that thought with my wife. Like, of course, if we were going down in a plane and I knew that I could sacrifice my life to save my wife, sure. But I never thought about that. Like I would totally do it. But
Yeah.
like I think about that all the
Mhm.
time with my daughter now, where it's like, if anything happens, she's it. She's the most important thing. And I never thought in my 20s that I would have that thought process with another living thing. It's very weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
because we're always so
No,
selfish, right?
makes
Like
sense.
throughout our whole lives.
We
Whe-
are.
yeah, whether you know it
I
or
am.
not, you are. Yeah, we all are. Which
Yeah,
again, as you should
yeah,
be, especially when you're in your 20s and 30s.
yeah.
Like you should do whatever the fuck you want to
Mhm.
do because YOLO. But when you have a kid, it's like things change,
Yeah.
and it's so weird how
Yeah.
it just switches.
Mhm.
You know?
It's sometimes I think, like, am I ready to be a dad or whatever? But then I'm like, "Okay, can I get over me being selfish and
Yeah,
just not stop thinking about myself?" It's
yeah,
it's 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 a battle.
yeah. You're right, dude. Yeah, the answer to your question is no. You're not ready. Don't. You're n-
You're not ready.
you're not going to be ready. No one's ever ready. I wasn't ready. But I will say
Yeah.
this. What this isn't for everybody, but I never thought I wanted to have a kid until I did. Like my wife, she's always
Mhm,
wanted a
mhm.
child. But for me, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm indifferent, whatever. And then when she was born, I was like, oh, what have I been doing
Oh
this whole
god.
time? Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it's weird because you do have these little regrets and everything, but then you also kind of think, at least now we are, where like you're traveling a lot, which is great. We didn't get a chance to do a lot of traveling overseas, but we plan to. But now we're just gonna have, a little company. That's all. We're not gonna. I've met parents that are like, they told us, "Oh my God, we haven't been to brunch in months," and I'm like, "What? I just went to brunch last weekend. What do you mean?" Like,
Mm,
but my baby
mhm.
cries. Okay, so you hang on to her,
So?
so she cries. Like, what are you worried about? What other people
Yeah,
think? Fuck them. Like, you got to live your life. The people that
yeah,
like don't live lives because they're children, that's a choice. Like, I'm here to tell you on the record. That's bullshit.
yeah.
When people say you don't
Mhm.
have a life with a child, your life's a little bit more chaotic. It's a little bit more stressful, but it's just another thing. It's like, it's like having a car. It's just another
Yeah,
payment. It's just
makes sense.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like you got to fill up the gas tank. Like it's just another thing you have to do in your life. It's not that big
another
of a
thing.
deal.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
responsibility of like making sure that that thing doesn't die. That's the that's the stressful part. It's
Doesn't
like
die.
yeah, like you have to keep that thing alive. That's the hard part, man. So,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, but other than that, it's great though.
yeah,
So what,
yeah.
but, what are the big plans for you? What's the long-term goal do you plan to move down
For
here,
me,
stay in Michigan?
mhm.
Like, what's the goal?
So that's really what I think life will bring, for me in the next year. I'm gonna get my license in the next year and a half, graduating in April 25.
Nice.
And there are a lot of options. Like the world is opening right now. If I want to just stay as a general dentist and practice,
That's great.
if I want to go for residency, if I want to specialize or not. Um, Definitely, if I stay down here in States, I can make much better money,
Mhm.
lower taxes than Canada.
Mhm.
Um, but in Canada, I can have also a good life, peaceful.
Yeah.
But I will for sure will not have a luxury life as I can in States. But
Yeah.
it really, in the end, comes down to what you want from life.
That's right.
I'm not rushing myself into it. Like I'll sit on it and I'll see how it goes. But I think that my long-term goal will be that I will specialize probably in pediatric dentistry.
Nice.
I love working for kids. They give me very good energy. They're very pure. Um, so I think I'm down to that road. Definitely will be a part-time faculty.
Yeah.
Um, Back in Vancouver, I started teaching when I was doing my master's,
Mhm.
and I really, really enjoyed teaching the undergrad students, the dental students first year. Um, it's not until when you start doing something when you realize, oh, I'm really good at this, or I can make a difference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think I was really successful in making a difference for the students.
That's great.
So, yeah, my life goal is practicing and just being part-time faculty. And I'll probably end up somewhere down here in States,
Cool.
what I'm thinking right now. And Tampa, Florida is among one of my top choices, man.
It's a great city, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, to start a life and a practice. Austin, Texas is somewhere I'm thinking about. I
Austin's
heard
great too.
many good things about Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Northern Virginia
Mhm.
and Colorado. Colorado, I
Colorado.
heard so many good things. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been to Colorado. It's absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful too. Um,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of like you talk about children how they're pure, and it's kind of like if you've been to a city or a town that hasn't been tainted, that's like the
Mhm.
best place to go. So like Colorado's one of those. Same thing with Austin. It's one of those ones where it doesn't matter your political or religious beliefs. Like if you go in there, you live in Austin. That's it. There's no like if, ands,
Yeah.
or buts. Same thing with Florida. I mean, you can say what you want about Florida, and we got a lot of stereotypes, most of which are true. But you come in here, and no one cares. It's just you're Floridian. Like no one gives a shit. We're all crazy. Who cares? But you go to like a place like New York City, where
Yeah.
you're a New Yorker. You got to move fast. You got to cross the street without looking both ways. You got to talk like this. You got to like eat pizza. There's like certain things you have to do, or fuck you, you're not a New Yorker. Same thing with
Yeah.
LA, right? Like you got to be a stuck up broad if you want to live in LA. Like there's certain stereotypes that are attached to a city, but like a place like Colorado, it hasn't been tainted. It's like beautiful and pure, and they care about
Mhm. Mhm.
the land, and it's still relatively cheap to live out there. And no one really talks about it a whole lot because people that live in Colorado don't give a shit about what other people think. Like it hasn't been
Mhm.
tainted by Americans yet. That's the thing, bro. You got to find a place that's not tainted
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
we're very
Yeah.
impressionable, and we can ruin some good things. You know, we've done it before. But
Oh
either way,
well.
man,
Oh well.
hopefully you end up here in the States because it is a great place to
Yeah.
live. Aside from our healthcare, there's a lot of
Yeah.
good things.
Yeah.
So,
Well, trust me, the healthcare in Canada is not very good either.
yeah. Well, it's free. How good could it be? Yeah.
It is free, but then you might take like forever just to
Yeah.
get your health done. I never forget the days in Vancouver where I had to wait 24 or 48 hours just to see a doctor for flu.
Oof. For
Like
what? Did you say
that's free
flu?
health. Flu, yeah,
Oh, for the flu,
for
yeah.
just a norm like a flu. Yeah,
Oh,
like
the
that's
fuck?
for healthcare, dude. Like I went to I was living in Vancouver for 2 years. I could not secure a family physician for myself.
Whoa.
There's none. No one would take me. They're like overloaded. And then that's what happens is that every time you need to see a doctor, you will go to urgent care. You will go to hospital emergency. And
Yeah.
you take your turn in the morning, and they'll be like, "Oh, we will probably be able to see you somewhere around 8 p.m. or 9 p.m." So you go to work, you do all of your shit, like, and then maybe around 8 or 9 p.m. someone will be able to see you. So
Yeah, man.
trust me, like, nowhere is perfect. I know all Americans are like, "Oh, free healthcare, Canada," but that's not reality. That's
No.
not true. Like, you don't see the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is
Yeah,
we're tribal. We don't,
yeah,
and also too, anything that we don't have, we want. So like if it was reversed,
mhm,
if healthcare was free in America and,
yeah,
it was reversed, we would want what Canada wants. That's just how
yeah.
us Americans are. We're
You
just
always want what you don't have.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
The
It's
grass is
this
always greener
That's right. It's
on
one
the
of my
other side.
favorite sayings that's such bullshit because the grass is not greener. I've been on both sides, and no matter what side you're on, it's great where you are, man. Like it's just be
Exactly.
grateful. There's so many other places that don't have, even in Canada or even in Australia. If you take any single country, there's another country or another place that has it worse. Like you're in Florida
Mhm,
and you're bitching about the heat. Okay, there's people in Chicago that the crime rates are up like crazy and people don't have a place to live.
mhm.
Like it's
Yeah,
even in our own country, there's worse things in the
yeah,
world than being hot in Florida. Like shut the fuck up. Everyone is complaining
yeah.
about things. It could be
Just
worse.
enjoy the things, like, you're kinda have around
Yes.
you.
just
Yeah.
enjoy it, man.
Yes.
It's all good, man. You know,
Yeah.
but listen, dude, this has been a cool chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're at like an hour and 15 minutes. So this
Oh,
went,
wow.
yeah. Time flies when it's like a time warp in here.
That's nice.
Yeah,
I feel like I could talk with you, like, forever.
for
Just
sure,
sit
dude. No,
here.
same. Yeah.
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 And yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again, man. It was cool to get to know you a little bit,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's much more to
Absolutely.
discuss.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure talking.